Hi, Stephen the Hospice Nurse here. Now I'd like to show you an awesome feature on Hospice Tools Timekeeper that we call Auto Build. You've already seen how to enter information into a timesheet line by line, but with the seamless integration of Hospice Tools eDocs clinical software and Hospice Tools Timekeeper, there is a simpler and more efficient way to build your timesheet. Let me show you how Timekeeper's Auto Build feature works. We're on our Timekeeper homepage. Let's click on Pay Period Start Day, and we're going to select 7/21. In our previous demo video, you can see that we had started our day with an IDG meeting. The IDG meeting ran from 8 to 1, but we hadn't completed our timesheet for the rest of the day. After the meeting, we went out to visit patients and made a patient phone call. Now we can either manually enter the rest of the day line by line, or we can use Auto Build. Auto Build only works though if you've already entered that day's clinical visits into the Hospice Tools eDocs clinical charts. Let's pull up eDocs so you can see what I mean. The first patient that we dealt with following the IDG meeting that day was Samantha Bellamy. As you can see, we have a progress note for Samantha. This progress note indicates a phone call we had. After our call, we drove over to Samantha's for a clinical visit. And after we saw Samantha, we saw a few other patients. Our next visit was for our patient Alexander Lemming. As you can see, on 7/21, we have a progress note indicating our visit with Alexander. Following our visit with Alexander, we continued our day and went to see our patient Daniel Lee. We can open up Daniel's chart and we see that we have a completed progress note for our visit with Daniel. And we ended our day with a visit to our patient Henry Morgan. We can pull up Henry's chart and we see that we've entered our progress note for Henry. Let's click on the progress note, and as you can see, it's a visit note. The way Timekeeper Auto Build works is that it will pull the date and times over directly from the visit notes in eDocs. You can see in our clinical chart, we've entered the date and time in and time out. We also have the purpose of the progress note, which is a visit, and the contents of the note. And when we exit the note, we can see that it's in submitted status. Let's go back over to Timekeeper now, and we'll see how Auto Build works. We simply open the timesheet for that day, scroll to the bottom, and click on the button called Auto Build. And all of the activity that's been completed in eDocs shows up in our Auto Build timesheet. We can review the information just to make sure that it looks correct, and then we simply click Build Timesheet. What that does is take all the information we entered in our clinical notes and feeds it directly into our timesheet. This is a huge time saver because now we don't have to enter it manually, and it prevents any mistakes that can happen with manual entry. Now we can go ahead and build any other administrative or travel time around those clinical visits. We can see that during our day, there's a gap between the visit to Samantha and the visit to Alexander. We know that was travel time. So we'll go ahead and enter that from 2:30 until 3:15 in the afternoon, we traveled from Samantha to Alexander. We select the activity as travel. And we can put in our mileage to get reimbursed. We'll say that was 20 miles, and then we can save that information. After our visit to Alexander, we took a short trip over to Daniel Lee's house. So from 3:45 until 4 in the afternoon, we were on the road again, and we can save that entry as well. If, for example, we realize we forgot to put in our mileage, we can go back in and edit, save it again, and you can see that the mileage shows up on the screen. From Daniel's, our last travel of the day was to Henry Morgan's. Let's go ahead and add that in. We traveled from 4:45 to 5:15. Our activity type again is travel. Our mileage was 10 miles. And we can go ahead and save it. Now we can either confirm each individual entry after we've reviewed them, or we can click this button right at the top corner and it will verify all our entries at once. You can see that all our entries have been verified. The day is completely green and the timesheet is 100% complete. and that's how AutoBuild works. I'm sure you'll agree that Hospice Tools Timekeeper makes building timesheets and matching clinical times to clinical visits super simple. Hospice Tools, how hospice happens.